to turn it over to Jen, who's fantastic.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. How are we?
You're very tired, Jen.
Again, a bit of a long day, right? Okay. There's actually a reason, folks, that they saved me till the end, because I'm going to jump around in front of you a little bit. I'm going to talk to you about how I'm going to talk to your students. We'll have a little fun together, okay? I may say some things that make you go, oh my word, did she really just go there? Yes, I did, and I will. So the reason, well, actually, let me back up. My name is Jen DeBurro. I am the Assistant Dean of Students for Residence Life. Now, don't let the Residence Life part of that title cloud you. Is there anyone in the room with a commuting student? Anyone? No? All right then, easy. For those who might be watching this after the fact, this is applicable to our first year students who might be commuting, so there is overlap here. My role today is to share with you actually a presentation that I'll do with your students tomorrow. I believe in full disclosure. And the students have said to me, tell me like it really is. I want to know what the experience is actually going to look like. And so that's what I do with them. So I will use some of their language in order to get their attention. I will talk to them about things like drug, sex, and rock and roll. I will bounce around the room and be a little bit silly in front of them. And the reason I want to share this with you is because if they come home and they say, you know, some lady up at UNE was just talking to me about hooking up, I want you to say, yeah, that was Jen. Yeah, how'd that go? What did you hear in that presentation that surprised you? Did any of it make you nervous? The role here is to hopefully open up some room for conversation. Hopefully I'll expose some thoughts here that maybe you'll go back and ask some questions about. Maybe it'll spark some things for them that they want to ask you about. I'm actually going to prompt them and say, talk to them about who's paying for the books. Talk to them about what you have for work study. Talk to them about what the recommendations are or what the requirements are in terms of your GPA and financial aid. Because some of them will unfortunately learn the hard way that if you don't maintain a certain GPA, that some of those scholarships will go away. So there are lots of things that I will call their attention to for a couple of different reasons. One is to tell them like it is, because this is what they've told me they want. But the other thing is to try and take the teeth out of or shine a light on some of the things that I know and see happen every single year. What I want is to, by introducing the subject matter, by talking about it and reminding them of all the resources that we have available, hopefully I'm making it feel a little less icky when that thing presents for the first time, okay? So, full disclosure here, this is why I'm doing this. Some of you, again, may hear some of the topics and go, oh my God, I don't even want to think about my student doing that. And of course, we know it's not your student doing those things, it's their friends, right? Okay, I understand. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Is that okay? All right. I'm going to show them a little video. I'm not going to do that with you right now. And I'll back up just one more time, actually. I'm doing this on a sequential basis. So starting with the summer and taking them through the year and the things that we know happen, generally speaking, at these various points in the year. We know that there are blips on the screen in terms of some of the behaviors that we see. So that's why I take them through this way. All right, so we're going to talk about all those celebrations. Hopefully many of them are getting these big fat envelopes with some nice checks or money in there. I'm going to encourage them not to go and buy themselves a whole new college wardrobe. I'm going to talk to them about budgeting and about the need they have to speak with all of you about what money is going to look like in the fall. When they get to the bookstore, and if you're there with them, are they going to be expecting you to pay for all those books? Maybe they're looking at online purveyors of books and trying to do the purchase in advance. Are they going to expect you to pony up a credit card to pay for it, or is it on their own? Is it for them to pay their lab fees, or is it something that you're going to help them with? Who's paying for the late night Papa John's runs? Okay, is that something their work study funding is going to pay for, or is that something that they're going to be expecting you to help with? Are you sending them a check once a month so that they have some spending money? I'm going to ask them to talk about that up front. All of this under the guise, or, well, really my hope here is to align the expectations with the reality as much as possible. We know that when those don't align, that's when we have issues, that's when people are unhappy. So these are things I'm going to ask them to talk to you about so that we can get through the yucky stuff in advance. All right, they're going to be worried about things like roommates and packing. I'm going to let them know not to worry about the roommate situation. They will find out by the second week in July who it is that they're living with and where they're living. They can certainly select a roommate. However, I just send a caution out there to them at all times that all roommate matching has to be mutual. Every summer, someone calls and says, if you make me live with her, I will claw her eyes out. So I will not make a placement unless it's mutual, and we'll talk about that with them. They will worry about what to bring, and I will tell them not to worry. They've all received a packet of information, and in there is a complete list of the things to bring as well as the things not to bring. And I will tell them, if it says don't bring it, don't bring it. It's that simple. They'll still try. But we'll always refer back to that. And that list is online. It'll also go out to them in an email if they have any questions about it. They can also call us at any time. I'll do a little scan of the crowd. I actually did this with them earlier. I asked them all to close their eyes, and I asked who was super excited, who was super anxious. And then I gave them a chance to open those eyes. And without them outing themselves in front of one another, what I was able to do for them is just demonstrate that it's a spectrum, right? We have some folks that are really, really excited about this opportunity. As a matter of fact, I might have to kick some of them out of here when orientation is over, because some of them just want to stay until August. And as a matter of fact, the number of bags they brought leads me to believe they're planning on it. There are others, of course, who are really nervous. And this new environment, the new experience, can be a really isolating experience for someone who feels like they are the only one who's nervous about the experience. They will see, because this is what first-year students do. We know walking around campus who the first years are because they travel in herds. They walk in packs of 9, 10, and 11. I'm not even joking here. What will happen for many of them actually is they will see that. They will actually see some of those groups starting to come together here at orientation. And it's very easy for them to look upon those groups and think, well, they've got it together. Somehow, I don't have this together. What do I need to do? And they'll question themselves, and so I'm going to spend some time talking about that. So pretty easy stuff so far, right? So they're nervous about leaving. September comes, and they're nervous about how they're going to meet people. I'm going to talk to them about the club and organization fair that we will have the first Friday that they're all here. I will tell them that by joining a club or organization, this is going to be one of the quickest and best ways to meet a new friend, because you will obviously align yourself with someone who shares a similar interest. It's pretty simple. I will let them know that our students, based on the research, are actually more successful when they get themselves aligned with a club or organization. Those clubs and organizations not only have amazing peers, but many of them have a faculty or staff advisor. And what do we know about that? We know that a student who feels a connection to a faculty or staff member is also more inclined to be successful here. They'll feel more connected to the place. They'll be more inclined to take advantage of the resources that we have available to them. So I'll talk about that. I'll talk about getting to know people on their floors, getting out, not taking off every single weekend to go visit friends at another institution. So for those of you who I know are going to be missing your little bubbas, I'm going to challenge you not to rush here on that first weekend to pick them up and bring them home. Even if they're uncomfortable, even if they're not sure that they love it. The only way they're going to meet people, the only way they're really going to start to get settled is if they're here, okay? So don't rush too quick. I know you want to, but this is, you know, I guess letting the baby cry it out a little bit, I guess. That's a terrible analogy, isn't it, right? Because they're all adults now. But there will be tears. There will be tears. Anyone in the room? Well, let me ask this. 2 questions. One, how many of you are sending a student for the first time off to college? Bunch of you. Okay. So for those of you who've done this before, I should have said this at the beginning. Please feel free to share your wisdom. Okay? You've done this. You've seen it. You've probably gotten some of those phone calls. So feel free to share that. The other question that I have, since we are all resident students here, how many of your students have never shared a bedroom before? Oh, God. Oh, we've got our work cut out for us. Do me a favor, make them bunk up with someone for the next 2 months. Just for fun. Let's see what happens. A little social experiment. Okay. All right, so meeting people. I'm going to jokingly talk with them about the need to get to know their residents over the course of the summer, and one of the ways that I will share their need to do so is I will actually discuss, and I'm not exaggerating here, folks, I will share with them my experience of watching parents go head-to-head over whose kid is going to have the top bunk. Every year I see this. Every year. So I'm going to encourage them to call the roommate. If they have to text in order to break the ice, that's fine. I don't care how they do it, but I want them to talk. I'm also going to let you all in on a little secret. We've got these amazing orientation leaders and student athletes and student leaders that are going to come out in order to help move your students in the fall. It's going to be the best student move-in you'll have in these next 4, 5, whoever knows how many years. I have to say, though, that these orientation leaders, they're normal, everyday students. They are not pumping iron every single day. So there is nothing more devastating for me to see than 3 refrigerators going up the stairs and 2 of them coming back down. And then we get to the next bank of cars and 3 of them are going up and 2 of them coming down. So I want them to talk to each other, get to know one another, decide who's bringing what, talk about things like the top bunk in order to avoid as much conflict in those initial hours as possible, because it will happen. And I'm going to talk to them about that. I don't want them to walk into this expecting that everything's going to be sunshine and fabulous right off the bat. It's going to take some work. So again, I'm being really honest with them about that. Expectations, reality, I want to align as much as possible. All right, I'll talk to them about things like classes and how they'll find out who their advisor is and change a section. I don't want them spending a lot of time worrying about that and placing anxiety in a position where it doesn't need to be. Okay? We'll talk about meeting people. I'm going to get a little silly. I'm going to say, ladies, I'm going to call you out on something. Because this is something that we know our ladies do. Our ladies link up very quickly. And those are some of the quickest packs that come together, right? They need their peeps, they need their team around them. And one of the things that I see our young ladies do is they share every gory detail of their lives within the first 24 to 36 hours. Now, those of us with estrogen and who have daughters certainly know that women aren't always kind when that information is shared, correct? Women can be downright mean to one another. As a matter of fact, we have movies all about this, right? So we know that within 3 or 4 weeks, these groups start to disintegrate. And before we know it, all of those awful, gory details of your life are being shared with the rest of the campus. Now, I don't want to say these things to them in order to scare them. What I will tell them is this experience is a marathon. You don't have to get here and populate your entire bridal party in the first week that you're on campus. You get to, in fact, take your time. Stick your toe in, join a club, see who's in your class, get to know people on the floor. Okay, we don't need 7 bridesmaids after night 2. So, a little bit silly, again, but based on what I see happen every year and wanting desperately to try and ease some of what I see go on. Talked about clubs already. I will let them know that the food in the dining hall is not in fact making them sick. Okay, we don't put anything in the salad bar to fatten them up. There are no laxatives in anything, okay? If they call and tell you these things, they're full of it. I would guess probably literally and figuratively. It's not your cooking, obviously, okay? It's not Nana's apple pie, although what we have here is fine. It is not the home cooking that they're used to, but it is not making them sick. We're not intentionally trying to make anyone sick. So don't believe them when they say that they need $50 a week to buy food off campus. They do not. You've already paid for the meal plan. Make them use it. I am going to call attention to something that I see each fall, which is that these lovely, very bright human beings seem to forget that if Nana follows them on Instagram, she still follows them on Instagram when they step onto this campus. And yet somehow they forget that. And then they go and they do something stupid and they post pictures about it. And then I get calls from you saying, do you know what they were doing down at the beach this weekend? So I will remind them, people, A, don't do stupid things. B, don't take pictures when you choose to do stupid things. And C, if you do stupid things and take pictures of them, don't post them for the world to see. I don't know why they do this, but they do every year. And we'll talk to them about digital footprint and things like that. A lot of them don't realize how many employers are actually using these online platforms, these social media platforms, to vet candidates before there's even a phone call made. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Moving on. All right, they're missing their boyfriend. I'm going to be very silly and I'm going to say to them, look around this room, check it out, check each other out. And they'll do that and they'll giggle a little bit because they're not sure why I'm asking that. And then I'm going to tell them that if you have a man at home, you hold on to that man. And they're going to laugh, right? And I'm going to say, hold on to that man at home until you've had a chance to scope out what we have. And of course, all the guys are going to say, oh, lady, wow, what's the deal? And I'm going to say, our men here are gentlemen. They are just fine guys. But if you looked around this room as I asked you to, you will notice that there's a whole lot more women than men. All right? So we'll have a little bit of fun with that. I'll let them know that if they came here trying to find a significant other, hopefully the significant other that they're looking for is female. We're going to talk about the fact that they're missing their dog and they're missing you. High school friends, hopefully siblings. I'll joke with them that boyfriend will be gone after the first couple of weeks anyway. Some of them will go, oh my God, and I'll react to that appropriately, okay? I will talk about the fact that there are going to be days when they love their roommates and positively loathe their roommates. And love and loathe and love and loathe. Okay? It's a roller coaster ride. Now, a lot of you raised those hands, right? So now it's not just a roller coaster ride of sharing this small space. It's that there's other human beings in it with you. You've not tried to just shove everything in there. You've tried to shove everything that you've owned since 6, and I'm going to ask them not to bring everything they've owned since 6. But they have to get all that in there with their 1 or 2 other roommates who've done the same thing, and it's tough. You all, and this is my plea to all of you. If you get that weepy call late in the evening, please don't immediately call and say, get the demon spawn out of my kid's room, okay? Here's why. We built this whole residential curriculum, which is built, designed in order to help students to develop the sorts of skills that we know will help them to be successful in life beyond college. If you look at some of the data that's coming back from our employers out there, they're actually telling us that while our young men and women are coming to the workforce with some great knowledge, many of them are lacking in key skills like self-advocacy and resiliency, communication, conflict resolution. So, your son or daughter may come to you and say, you know what, these people in housing are making me jump through hoops. I do not dig this. I need you to step in. When you do make the call, what we're going to do is explain to you the process. Now, these don't exist in order to make their lives miserable. They exist because when there's disagreement in a room, whether it's over something that they seem to think is really silly or whether it's very serious, either way, when conflict arises, I'm not doing them any favors if I'm not giving them the tools they need to try and resolve it. Now, if upon doing a mediation, they still can't come to any kind of consensus about how things should be, then I'll go ahead, I can make some moves happen. But I'm always going to make them sit down and talk it out first, all right? That's because what I am trying to do is prepare them. It's not just about giving them 4 walls and a roof. It really is about helping them to build some skills, okay? So always call us. Never be afraid to call and say, can you tell me a little bit about? Okay, we'll always talk to you about the sorts of steps that we will take in order to try and resolve a situation. And please know that if safety is ever concerned, don't worry about that, all right? I will remove the demon spawn at that point if I need to, all right? I actually reserve empty spaces around campus specifically to separate them when and if that should ever be needed, okay? And sometimes in the heat of the night when tempers are up, sometimes the best thing to do is just separate them. For those of you that have kids, you know, make them go to separate corners of the room and call it a day. When we're fresh and relaxed in the morning, we can talk about it and be cooler and calmer, okay? So, please, no demon spawn, get them out of the kids' space. Some of them, I'm going to talk about some of the anxiousness that exists in the room right now. Some of them are feeling some real anxiety about whether or not they made the right choice. And for some of them, a couple weeks into September, that's going to really be exacerbated. So I'm going to talk about the need for them to talk to us about that. I will call attention to the fact that going through that can really feel like one of the worst ways to wake up every day, right? So super isolating, especially when you see those herds of people going by and you think, well, they've got it together. Why don't I feel it? Why don't I love it? I'm going to encourage them to come talk to us. I'm going to remind them about those proud UNE family buttons that we passed around. And I'm going to say, you're in it now, folks. You are part of this family with us. So even if you're not sure, even if you're not feeling like you love it, I want you to talk to us about that because sometimes there are easy fixes. Sometimes it's a little more complicated. But let us at least involve ourselves with you, okay? All right, so then we're going to get to October. This isn't going to work anymore, okay? Let's do this manually. All right, October comes. Now I'm going to tell them about this crazy thing that our professors dreamed up, which is called a syllabus. They're going to look at me cross-eyed. I'm going to say, the syllabus, it's like your key to the kingdom. They give you everything you need in it. Attendance policies, dates of major assignments, chapters that you need to be reading, it's all right there. And they're going to look at me and say, lady, why are you making such a big deal about syllabuses? And I'm going to say, because you people don't read them. And then I'm going to say, we're going so far as to kill a bunch of trees in order to build you a beautiful student planner in which you can break down all of those assignments. I will remind them, not being chastising, but I will remind them that no one is going to be around to ask them, what do you got coming up? Did you do your homework? What's the major paper? Have you gotten it started? It's going to be entirely up to them. They need to be driving this bus. One of the ways that they're going to do that and be successful at it is by getting into those syllabuses early on. And if there's something that they're not sure about, asking the question up front. I'm going to talk about how quickly this semester goes. I'm going to talk about the sheer volume of work that's going to be expected of them. Many of them are walking through this door feeling like, I've always had A's, I'm good. This is not going to be a problem. What those same students will tell me at the end of the semester is, I just didn't realize how much there was going to be. I feel like I did good, but I didn't realize how quickly I could get behind. So we'll spend time on that. I will say to them that if your faculty member doesn't have an attendance policy and doesn't otherwise assign a grade to your butt being in the seat, well then you sure as heck better find someone who's going to let you look at their notes from time to time. Because even though the faculty member says, there's no attendance policy, per se, they're still going to expect you to know what was addressed in class, right? So I'll talk to them about that. This is when I'm going to start talking about sex. Here it is. I'm going to talk about the fact that this is a teeny tiny campus. And if you're going to come here and you're going to do gross things, like have a new hookup partner every other night of the week, that people around here are going to talk. We are a small community. You can very quickly create a reputation for yourself around here that's going to be pretty hard to shake. So I'm going to talk about the fact that they need to conduct themselves appropriately. I am going to implore them to treat themselves and the people around them well. I am not running a brothel. And I will make sure they know what that means. Okay? And I'll bring it up a couple more times as this goes on. But I will use terms like hooking up. I will say things like they were bumping uglies or things like that. It will make them giggle, but they will hopefully hear the message, which is please be good to yourself and the people around you. Okay? I'm going to talk about all the things that we have on campus, all of the amazing programs that we offer every single day of the week. Every single day. I'm telling you right now, if your student calls you and says, I am bored out of my mind, there's nothing to do around here, you can tell them they're a big, fat, stinky liar and that I said so. Okay? And then you can ship them off to my office where I'll show them all the different places where they can actually get access to the lists of all the things that are going on. I will talk to them about the fact that the overwhelming majority of these programs that we offer throughout the course of a year are actually presented by their peers. I will talk about the fact that if they don't see something that they would otherwise like to see, that they can come talk to us and we'll try to make it happen for them. The reality is, you all are paying an awful lot of money for them to be here, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, you're paying for this. They should be taking advantage of it. All of these resources that we'll be talking about, and these programs are one of them. Now, I don't have the city of Boston in my back pocket, okay? They can get on a train, they can go visit, that's fine. I cannot change the makeup of Biddeford, Maine. So if they wanted a mall within 5 minutes of campus, I can't get one built in the next 2 months. So again, I want to align their expectations of what college and the social piece of it's going to look like with the reality of what it is here. Okay, so we'll spend a little time on that. We'll talk about the money thing. I will let them know that if they have work study, they have a responsibility to get those jobs quickly. Financial aid will actually start listing work study opportunities on their website in the next handful of weeks. I'm going to say to them, start looking at those early. Start making phone calls. If you are always a student athlete and you're not intending to be on a varsity sports team while you're here, then maybe what you do is want to get connected to the athletics department. Go see them before you leave orientation and ask if they might have any work study positions open in the fall. This way you remain connected with the office. You're still a part of it. You get that feel. So I will talk to them about that and then go back to the conversation that I would have had previously about talking to you about who's supplying what and what they can expect from you. And then the campus jobs. I think you all heard from Caleb Lewis earlier, who was pitch hitting for Mary Jones earlier. So you already know a little bit about what Mary can do. She can also help them find jobs both on campus as well as off. All right, so November hits. Now, they didn't go to class and they didn't make friends with Smarty Pants, who was going to help them with the class notes, and so now they're taking their midterms. We'll talk about that. And then I'm going to get serious. One of the things that I positively love about this generation, love, is that they've grown up at a time when it's been really okay for us to be talking about mental health issues. All kinds of mental health issues, right? The reality is that it's all on the table now. There are things that we can talk about that even 10, 15 years ago we didn't touch, but now we do. The other piece of this is that as these treatments have evolved, many of them have friends or diagnoses of their own. And so the flip side of this, which is that, it's all on the table and that's great and we want them to talk about it and have an understanding. The flip side of this is that many of our young people think that they're equipped to deal with these crises when they emerge. And so I will say, you're all lovely and you all care very deeply for each other and you want to take care of one another and I want you to do that. However, I've got these really amazing trained professionals here who are paid to do this, who actually have all the training to do it and do it well. And what I will tell them is that every year, despite the fact that I say this every year, what I see is one person's emerging mental health crisis becoming the crisis sometimes of a group of roommates, sometimes other folks on the floor, sometimes a whole sports team, because being lovely, caring human beings and feeling like they have good information and like they're capable of taking this stuff on, that crisis becomes the crisis of many. So now we have multiple roommates who are up late into the evening with the distraught roommate. They're not hitting class because they're too distracted and exhausted when daytime comes. They themselves aren't taking meals at the dining hall or going to the gym and taking care of themselves as they should be. I'm going to caution them on this. I'm going to, again, ask them to be very good to one another. I'm going to encourage them that if they have that, they see that thing emerging in their friend, go talk to counseling yourself. Counseling isn't just for the person who's in crisis. It's for that person's friends as well, to help give them language, help them to have healthy boundaries with those folks that might be in trouble. And one of the reasons I'm going to spend a lot of time on this is I want to remind them too that what the research also tells us is that many mental health issues that have not presented for the first time will actually present for the first time between the ages of 18 and 24. Who are our students, right? 18 to 24-year-olds. So it's inevitable that we're going to see things present for the first time. And so I'm going to call attention to that. The other thing that I'm going to call attention to, and this is a request of all of you, if you have a student who does have a diagnosis that requires some kind of medication, I'm going to ask that you have a conversation with them this summer and caution them. Too many students will do one of two things. They will either come here and they will decide to take themselves off those meds without realizing the risks associated with it. And some of those risks can be pretty dangerous, right? The other thing is, some of them will decide to toy around with those meds. They might double up their doses, or they might decide to throw on some alcohol or other drugs on top of that. And as someone who's making the phone calls sometimes in the middle of the night, who's actually had to be in the room with the person who's disassociated from reality because of the chemical interactions, I don't want to see that happen. So I'm going to talk to them about that, but it's also my request of all of you that if you have someone in your home who has a diagnosis that requires the medication, please caution them. I would be lying to any one of you if I suggested that when students get here, they will not experience alcohol or other drugs. All right? It's not as though I give everybody a pat down and search everything when they walk through the doors. So you can trust that it will be here. I will talk about the choices they have to either engage or not engage. And I will talk about the seriousness of the decisions if they do choose to engage. Okay? So I'm going to ask for your help on that. All right, then I'm going to try and get off of that. I'm going to shake it off a little bit. I'm going to say some silly thing, tell a stupid joke just to get them to laugh a little bit, shake off the serious. Okay? I will once again talk about the concern, or well, let me go back. Registering for classes, advisors. I will put so much information in front of them that they will trip over it. I will tell them that if you can't find the answers, just open your eyes a little bit wider or talk to your RA, because the answers are there for you. We're going to put it in front of them over and over and over again. I will call attention once again to the student who's feeling anxiety, feeling as though maybe this wasn't the best choice for them. I will let them know that one of the things that I know to be true is that many of those students who are feeling that way will actually go home during that Thanksgiving break and talk to whomever is there and make the decision right then and there about whether or not they're returning to us. We'll have a lot of students who will filter through the Student Affairs office to discuss the options that they have at that time of year. So I'll spend a little time talking about that. I will once again remind them that I don't run a brothel. And so I don't want the significant other spending every single weekend here. Now, parents look at me and say, can the opposite gender stay in the room overnight? Yes. I do not have intervisitation policies or anything like that. It is up to the roommates to decide what is okay. So one of the ways that we will help them to facilitate that is actually have them complete a roommate agreement with each other during the first week or two that they're here. We're going to ask them to talk some of these things out. So it's going to be their first shot at having a very uncomfortable conversation with someone who's a complete stranger, right? Some of them will make light of what we ask them to do. Others will take it very seriously. If I find ourselves in a situation where we've got that significant other that's always here, or that issues are arising as a result of that, we'll often go back to that roommate agreement and say, okay, so where'd you guys land on this? Oh, you didn't take it seriously? You said people could come visit whenever they wanted? Let's talk about that now. Okay, so we'll always revisit that, and we will do the best we can to help them to have appropriate voices with one another. I don't like when I see roommates getting bullied into making decisions they wouldn't otherwise want to make, so we'll talk about that too. All right, so they didn't go to class, they didn't make friends with the smarty pants to see what the class lecture notes were. They taped in their midterms, and now they think they're going to ask their faculty member for extra credit. I'm going to tell them, don't even bother. I'll also, be kind of silly and say, please do not send your faculty member an email that begins with, hey, prof. Yo, prof. I will talk to them about how they need to be appropriate. I will remind them that those faculty members spent a whole lot of years adding those extra letters to the end of their names, and they deserve respect for that. Okay, and I'll ask them to be appropriate. Some of them are going to freak out about going home for a month. If you all are hearing that, please don't personalize it. It's really not about you. Once they get in here and they get settled, they love being around each other. Those who are freaking out right now at the prospect of living in a triple will eventually come to love being in a triple. They will make some amazing friends. They will have some amazing experiences. And so many of them are going to get nervous about going home. Some of you sitting in this room, as soon as you drop them off here, in your mind, they are an adult. As long as they are happy and healthy, you are good. Others of you are saying, that's my financial information that's on the FAFSA, which means when you walk through these doors, it's still my roof and my rules. I will encourage them to ask you what they can expect of that. Again, reality, expectations. We want them to line up. I will remind them that if you want to know who they're going out with, and you tell them what time you want them home, that they better respect that and not give you a lot of crap for it. I will remind them that you're coming from a place of love and not to be little jerk faces. Okay? I got your backs, don't worry. All right. Some of them will not heed my advice of joining just one club or organization. I'll spend a little time talking about that. I'm going to encourage them all to join at least one thing, but please not join everything. Again, going back to the fact that there is a whole lot of content that these students have to get through. Some of them who've already taken chemistry will come here and say, why in the world am I having such a hard time with chemistry? I know how to do this. The answer often comes back, it's the sheer volume that they have to be able to manage. There's a lot. So I will ask them not to join a million things. Some of them, unfortunately, will realize in December that they probably should have listened to that advice. And that's fine, we'll help them get back on track for the spring. Some of them are going to do stupid things. Some of them are going to test my rules. I say to them, consider these buildings my house. And in my house, these are the rules. I don't care what your political beliefs are related to marijuana, and I don't care what the state of Maine even says about marijuana. I don't care that you think people can just walk down the street in Portland, stone smoking a doobie. I don't care. I will remind them the reason for that is because the money that the university gets from the federal government ultimately means that we have to stick with what the feds say. So, no goodnight bong hits down at the water. I will actually say that to them, and they will laugh, and they'll be like, oh my God, she knows what that means. I don't feel very old, but according to them, I'm old. So I will be silly. I will say things like that. I will let them know that I don't care what their political beliefs are, but pot remains a no-fly zone, as do any other drugs. If you're under 21, you can't be in the presence of alcohol. I will let them know that if they make these stupid choices, you all are going to get a letter at home. Because as far as we're concerned, we all are a team in this experience, all right? So if they test those boundaries, they're found responsible, you will find out. Now, I won't always be able to tell you the gory details of their indiscretion. What I will do is answer questions for you about our policies and procedures. If they give us permission to talk to you about the details of a situation, we certainly will, okay? And here, there's a lot of requests embedded in here. I hope you're catching them, okay? One of my requests is this: please do not call me and say, well, what did you do in college? Okay, that doesn't help. I'm very clear. These are my rules. This is how we do business. What I did in college, what your other kid did in college, what you did in college has no relevance on what we're dealing with right now. And the only reason I make a point of that is I hear it all the time. I love it. It doesn't change the situation. It doesn't change it. Okay. For those of you, I know that some of you raised the hands about those budding medical professionals. I think we asked whether or not folks had folks hoping to go off to medical school, and there were a bunch of hands that went up in the air. I'm just gonna use those as an example. Many of these incredibly bright young people have naturally done very well academically. They've managed to pick things up very, not very easily. There's always challenge, and many of them have worked very hard for these great grades that they've had. But some of them, for the first time, may actually feel like their academic selves, their sense of who they are as an academic being, is being challenged. They may get their first C or their first D, and they may call home to you and say, oh my God, I've got to change my major, I'm an idiot. And I'm going to say, one C does not an idiot make. Take a deep breath, relax. I'm also going to say to you, again, here's one of these requests. If they come home with their first C or D, please do not put the pressure on them, okay? There are a whole lot of things that we can do to get them the support that they need. They can retake these classes and bring the grade up. It does not need to be the end of the world. But some of the worst situations that I see our students put in is about the anxiety about the way they think they have to be. The reality about college is that there are a lot of opportunities to clean things up. And I don't want them putting undue pressure on themselves, because that's when I see lots of other issues bubble up. So we want to try and minimize those as much as possible. Okay? So you got to see, you're not a moron, I promise you. All right, so they will have all gone home for the winter break. They'll all be making out with all their high school friends. And they're going to come back here, they're going to make out with each other. They're going to touch their faces, they're going to touch surfaces, they're going to touch each other. This place becomes a petri dish of germs. All right, so I'm going to talk to them about the fact that they need to keep themselves healthy. I'm going to talk to them about going to the health center if they're sick. I'm going to ask them not to be heroes and show up into class when they've got a fever and they've been nauseous all day, because I don't need to see a whole class or a whole floor go down with illness, and we've seen it happen. I'm going to remind them that we're going to do things like flu clinics for them all through the fall semester. I will let them know that if they go to the health center and the health center tells them to stay put for a couple of days while they get better, that we will actually deliver food to them. I will do that. I will deliver, I will not, I will send someone else. I will send someone in a mask, no, to go deliver food to them. And we will also send a notification out to their faculty members letting them know that they're sick. Faculty often rely on that. They want to know that the illness is legitimate. And so, if you've got them at home, actually, and this is good to know, if you pick them up because they're sick, you want them to see a physician at home, if you send a copy of any note up to either health services or student affairs, we'll also send that notification out. Now, I will say to them, do not call me and say, hey Jen, I'm sick, bring me lasagna, because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that. They have to actually be sick. Some of them have tried this in the past, that's why I mention it. So, we will ask them not to get everyone else sick. I will talk about something that some of them may experience regarding their high school friends. Now, these lovely human beings that they adore right now, that they feel very good and comfortable with, are going to morph into something virtually unrecognizable. This may happen actually to some of your students. I'm going to remind them that these friends, these lovely beings, are just trying on a new version of themselves, okay? That person that they love is still in there. They're just trying something new, okay? And to be patient, that person will reemerge. And so I assure you, if you have the alien in your house come December, that little being will reemerge. They're just trying on something new, okay? Wait it out. Some of them are going to find out that their grades affected their scholarships. We mentioned that briefly. And some of them will have gone home every weekend, despite the fact that I've told them not to. Or maybe they're visiting another friend's school every single weekend. What I do know happens is it's really difficult, actually, for them to become reconnected or to get connected for the first time with peers if they're trying to do it for the first time, either very late into the semester or into second semester. Those groups start to gel pretty quickly, which is, again, why I'm asking them not to take off all the time. All right, February comes, they were looking for a guy, they didn't find one here, it's fine. We'll eat cookie dough ice cream together in the residence halls, and we'll watch slasher flicks, and everything will be fine. I will call attention to the fact that, upon the arrival of spring break, some places see a lot of disordered eating. I don't see so much of that here. What I do see, however, is some very disordered gym behavior. And so we'll spend a little time talking about that. If your young man comes home and he's put on 40 pounds of muscle, it's not normal. Ask him how that happened, okay? I see it as someone who spends time in the gym myself. It happens. And so when we see it emerging, we'll often call attention to it. I hope that you will as well. I will bring their attention back to the emerging mental health issues. Sometimes that roommate that's sleeping all day isn't just a lazy slug. Okay, this could be someone who's experiencing symptoms of depression for the first time, so I'll remind them of that. Some of them are looking at their OLs right now and thinking, I want to be that person someday. Some of them have heard that being an RA pays for your housing and your meal plan, and they're saying, sign me up. I'm going to let them know that those applications will actually become available at the end of first semester. And I know that seems really soon, but the reality is these processes begin and actually conclude between February and March, so they need to be keeping up with what's available and making those applications. And then again, the whole brothel thing, sex, I'll talk about that. All right, they're going to freak out come March about who they're living with and where they're going to live. I'm going to encourage them not to spend a whole lot of time worrying about that. We will do all kinds of programs in the residence halls to explain the process to them. We'll even we'll even do little socials to pair people with roommates. So there's a lot that we'll do, but again, they spend a lot of time worrying about things they have no control over, right? They spend all kinds of time worrying about the process and what it looks like. They can't change the process, all they can do is educate themselves about it, so we'll talk about that with them. The spring semester, I will tell them, moves really, really fast. Sometimes, you know, we say it's the breaks, we say, I don't know if it's a snow days, whatever the case may be, but it's gonna go really fast, and so I'll call attention to that. Some of them are gonna go away on spring break and do something really stupid. I hate to say it, but some goofball is gonna think that pushing a vending machine off a balcony sounds like a great idea. All right, I'm gonna let them know that if they are the goofball that does that, when they come back to campus, we will be here to help them. They may need to get their tuchus up to our Director of Safety and Security, who can talk to them about finding a good criminal lawyer. I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully they don't. But if they do something silly off campus, we're gonna be here to help them out. In other cases, some of them may experience some kind of trauma while they're off campus. I'm going to take this opportunity to remind them that if that is the unfortunate thing that happens for them, that we too are here to help them. Pick them up, dust them off, get them associated with the resources that will help. Okay, so again, proud family, UNE button, right? They can expect service from us regardless of where things happen. All right, moving really quickly. April comes along, they're nervous about going home, they're nervous about summer jobs, they don't want to miss, you know, they're afraid about losing all their friends over the course of the summer. Again, all things they're going to worry about, they don't need to worry about. Studying abroad, we've got Emily here who's going to tell you a little bit about that, so I'm not going to go into that right now. And then they can always hook up with Mary Jones and Career Services about finding their job for the summer. They're freaking out about packing because it feels like they just moved in. They're trying to decide if they're going to go to the beach or study. I'm going to encourage them to do the same. I'm going to tell them that there's this weird phenomenon that happens here at UNE. Something weird in the air. It gets to be about 50 degrees and suddenly it's a sea of pasty white bodies on every green patch we have out there. And it's really a little bit disturbing. So I'm actually going to be silly and just say, take your book with you, get all the vitamin D you need, and prepare for finals. And then that's it. So what? I'm going to talk to them about the entire first year experience program that I have in place for them. The living learning communities that I have, the faculty and staff mentors that will go up onto the floors to talk to them about how their experience is going, the student mentor program, the early and midterm alert program that we have. And just a quick note on that. Faculty, we've got a system in place whereby faculty can notify us if a student has just stopped going to class, maybe hasn't been passing in a bunch of assignments, is exhibiting behaviors that would suggest that they could use some tutoring or other academic assistance. And what we do is we reach out to students with that information that we have. We'll reach out and maybe do a phone call or a knock on the door to say, hey, what's going on? Sometimes it's as silly as, or as simple as they thought they had withdrawn from the class and they still show up on the rolls and we need to figure that out. In other cases, something big is going on in life. They need a breather, they need someone to talk to. So these check-ins that we do will expose any number of different things. We have emails that'll go out weekly. We have little newsletters that are gonna be in all the restroom stalls. We're gonna put the information in front of them everywhere, okay? So, pretty comprehensive program. I will let them know that what they get out of it is what they're willing to put into it, of course, as is the case with anything that we go through. And then the last thing, the last thought that I will leave them with is this. I need them thinking about their college experience in its entirety. Many of them will get here and they are just managing day to day, maybe week to week. Okay, I'm going to ask them when they arrive here to actually think about what they want the experience to look like in its entirety. Upon graduation, what do they want to be able to say they accomplished? And then through that first year program, we'll actually send people in to talk to them about setting up a roadmap for that. We're going to help them to set some goals and actually envision how it is that they'll achieve those goals. I'm going to ask them to think about the whole experience and to try and challenge not to just be here. As much as I want us in the here and now, in the present, I'm also going to ask them to do some goal setting and some envisioning for the future. Okay? So that's the content. It's really not that bad, but like I said, I'm going to bounce around in front of them. I'm going to use some of their language. Some of them may be a little bit alarmed that someone of my age is speaking the way they speak. But I promise, it's going to keep them with me, okay? And it's going to ensure that they're hearing what I need them to hear, okay? So that's my shtick. That's what you can expect.